Captain's Log, and it is another episode of Screen Preach for episode 57. I am going to talk about movies in the name of the Godfather, the Son of Odin, and the Holy... But Jesus, I need better intros. Okay, I'm really hyped this week. I'm so hyped for the episode we're gonna do tonight. Yeah, literally, tonight at 11:30 p.m. And we were just a little bit behind, more so than usual, but for good reasons. And look, okay, I get it. My posters aren't themed. I just got into a thing about this. My posters, they're not themed, and I wish they were. I wish I could do a different 2 posters every week themed for the episode. I can't. With that in mind, I will have more posters coming for episodes of the future. But it's just how we do it, okay? It's what you're here for, baby. This is it. This is what I got to work with, and this is it. This is Screen Preach. Screen Peach. Take a bite of it, savor it, because it's sweet. All right? And I love it, too. I always give myself the little audio cues. Like, if you hear me tapping in the beginning there, it's to help with the editing. I'm slamming that cord, that wire down for a reason. There's a reason for everything. I'm tired, but we're gonna keep this flowing. I'm so psyched, and there was a just in the news, and I'm going to make that the main news topic today because it relates directly to what we're talking about. This is not, we're not talking about a comedy, we're talking about, there's comedic elements to this film. Of course, I laughed, but this week is Cruella. And it's funny, when the films were coming out that I knew would be must-see theater ones, it was A Quiet Place Part 2 and Cruella, and I was so busy thinking about A Quiet Place Part 2 that I underestimated how good Cruella could actually be, and it's the one that I actually needed to see, and that we all need to see, and that you need to see. Go, whatever you're doing, don't even watch this, obviously, because it's spoiler-filled, but don't watch it at all. Don't watch anything. Go watch Cruella. And that wasn't for any editing. I just hit my elbow and kind of hit the funny bone a little bit. Yeah, you need to go see it. Here's the thing, too, okay? I was going to see it in theaters, because you can. And now I'm thinking A Quiet Place Part 2 wasn't even the one to see in theater. I mean, you gotta... yeah, it was good. But I should... This was great. I should have seen it in a theater as well. I ended up staying home and watching it on Disney+. The way Disney Plus does it sucks, okay? Yeah, the way that Disney Plus does it, it's just, it doesn't make sense. It sucks. HBO Max, it comes out in theaters and on HBO Max at the same time. If you have a subscription, you're good. You can watch it. Disney Plus with this fucking shit, man. People are subscribing to your fucking streaming service. Do you have to also make them pay an extra $30 to watch the movie? Come on, dude. Just stop. It's just wrong. Yeah, you might as well go see it in the theater if you're going to pay what you would pay to go to the theater, when all is said and done with the tickets and the fucking candy and popcorn. Come on. Yeah, which you should anyway. It's better in the theater, obviously. But, it's just stupid. I didn't feel like going, so I watched it here. And, whatever, it was good. It was great. I watched it with my friend Francesca, and it was awesome because we got into great film conversation. Very, very, it was very, very intellectual and intuitive and filmic. God, totally not the words I was trying to say there. Yeah, it was very, very, very good. Yeah, we like literally watched the whole thing, but it took longer because we were like pausing and talking. It was great. So I'm really hyped to talk about it. This is a great episode because the film. It's like my first. It was the first film in a while that really like just like blew me away, like shocked me as like how much I liked it. It's probably, I think it's in terms of ratings, it's going to be the first one in a while that's like up there, dude. Like really fucking and I guess we'll just use that to transition into the news because there was the biggest thing just in for me recording, not for you watching, and for those watching the segment, it won't be. It's just pretty much the biggest thing I saw was, and definitely considering how much I liked it, the best thing that I saw in the news was that they just announced it. They just announced the Cruella sequel at Disney, so it is in the works. And I never thought that I would be so hyped for a sequel about Cruella de Vil, but that's where we're at, and it's great. And so we definitely. It totally works with, if you've seen it, with the way it ends. I could see the story. You could play with that character now in any way you want, and the approach they took to the character in this one, and how she's just a completely revamped, just this restyled, re-envisioned version of Cruella de Vil. Just the story of her, this Cruella, just I could see sequels, and not just one. And it would be great to, if they were all as good as the first, and we'll see what happens. But I'm just really I'm looking forward to a Cruella sequel, and I think most people who liked it would also agree with me in that regard. So it makes sense to. And it's curious to see if they try to take her arc to a place we're more familiar with, even, or if they keep it different and new and unique, which they should. But I'm curious about what they would plan next for her arc if there's to be a sequel, because this was so different in terms of what kind of archetypal character we got. And I'll get into that too in more depth. You can definitely stick around for the full episode, or go check out the full episode. I mean, you're here for it, or you're not, but you should be. And I talk about Cruella in this episode 57. So more news. Yeah. More news this week. What do we got? We got a couple of things that were actually just in, like even Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse 2 just added added a new actress. Issa Rae has joined the sequel to voice a character. There was 2 trailers worth checking out. Trailer alert. You definitely, if you're a sci-fi fan, check out Hugh Jackman and Thandi Newton's, actually, and it's not Thandi anymore. She changed it to her actual full name recently. She's going to be going by that. So why are you showing me Thand? I forget what it is, but I'd like to start getting into the habit of saying it. She's great. I love her. It's done. This film is called Reminiscence. Is it Reminiscence? I think so. It's sci-fi, and Hugh Jackman. I'd love to have a more higher energy Hugh Jackman film. I feel like as of late we see him in more character driven, dramatic roles. I mean, since Logan, what has he done that's more like action packed, really, and this is kind of up that alley, and I think it's cool to have him in that role, in a role like that, and it's done by the co-creator of Westworld, is the filmmaker. So I'm intrigued by it, and you can watch the trailer right now. It's out. I'm not going to play it here or anything because I want to avoid doing that if I can. Playing trailers in the episode doesn't help in terms of monetization and whatnot. And the other trailer was the Dave Season 2 trailer. You can watch it, but you don't have to. It's coming out literally in a couple weeks, which is cool and fun. I can't wait to watch the second season of that. It makes me laugh. If you haven't seen the first, go watch it. Get ready for the second. That's funny. It's a Little Dicky's comedy on FX and Hulu. Donnie Yen joined the John Wick sequel, John Wick 4. No details on who he's playing or anything, but that's interesting. It's good casting. I like it. What was the last thing I saw him in recently? I think Mulan was the last thing I saw him. Before that, Rogue One. I mean, it's cool that he's going to be in this, though. I can't believe this is happening still. This I saw a couple days ago. I can't even believe Mission Impossible 7 filming was halted again. I think it already happened a few times, but because of a COVID positive fucking testing, like, just fucking, I mean, is it necessary to do that anymore? Like, with the vaccinations and everything, like, I just don't know if it's the lack of movement is strange to me now. Because what are the numbers really? Is it, I understand we have to be safe. I mean, look at what's happening in some of the other countries, but I almost think that that's happening in the other countries because they're still trying to do this whole lockdown thing that doesn't necessarily work to an extent. It almost just makes more sense to just get things moving again. And to see a film once again hold filming over this, it's just fucking insane. It's not news I wanted to be telling you, or that any of us want to hear, but it is worth mentioning. I gotta bring that up. I mean, Creed 3, in some good news. I mean, it hasn't been confirmed. I posted about it, but I hope it's true, because I've been into this actor's work as of late. I mean, what's happening is Jonathan Majors from The Last Black Man in San Francisco, Da 5 Bloods, and he has been cast as the villain in the third Ant-Man film, potentially as Kang the Conqueror. I'm really hyped for him and his work going forward. He may be playing the opponent of Adonis Creed in the third Creed, directed by Michael B. Jordan himself. So that's very interesting to me. I'm hyped for that if that ends up being confirmed. So please confirm that. I need to offer an update on this because I've brought it up before. So I mentioned how Quentin Tarantino is writing a novel based on Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. So a novel version or a novel continuation of that story and of some of those characters is in the works by Tarantino himself. And now there's been more details on that novel and more what it will be centered around. And it will dive into Cliff Booth's past, Brad Pitt's character, more. That's what the book will focus on more. So that's interesting, because I think as much as we loved both characters, Cliff was definitely the character that there was something about Cliff that I think all were more gravitated, attracted to in some way or another. And then keep your eyes peeled for the Netflix Masters of the Universe series that's coming. It's coming this month, actually. I think Kevin Smith is behind it. If you were a fan of any of the old ones, He-Man and everything, this is a new iteration on it, and it'll be on Netflix. And for some reason I'm keeping my eye out now more for these more adult cartoon stories that we're getting ever since watching Invincible, and even I'm watching Attack on Titan, and I know that's older, and I know it's anime and it's different, but I'm just so there are stories that can seem like they're for kids, but they are so not, and they intrigue me now, and I'm just keeping my eyes peeled. I don't know that that's what this is gonna be, but I don't know, something about Netflix's approach now to these cartoons or anime or taking manga IP they have and turning it into, like, I think they have a bunch of IP they're gonna work with and make some stuff out of. They have animes in the works, like based off of things, like off of like King Kong, or off, like they have animes in the works based off of these things. So I'm curious about things that I see coming to Netflix that are animated. So I thought I'd bring this up. Chris Hemsworth's officially they've confirmed that the filming for Thor Love and Thunder has wrapped, and they confirmed it with a photo it's ready to be in post production. And this, I mean, dude, when he was not lying, Chris Hemsworth, when he said he's in the best shape he's ever been for this one. Look at how big he got for this. Look at how dude. I don't know, and not because of how big he is, but just in general. I think I'm most hyped for Love and Thunder of everything. I really do, just because of how much I loved Ragnarok. And I think I've said that before, so we don't have to keep bringing that up. But check out the set photo. Director Taika Waititi also plays Korg. A Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles reboot from Seth Rogen and Nickelodeon, set for 2023. Okay, interesting. I know that might seem like nothing, but don't ever count out anything that Seth Rogen does and plunges his hands into. He's given us he's worked on things like Preacher or The Boys. Like, he's been involved in those things creatively. You definitely don't want to count out anything that I'm intrigued. That's all. I'm intrigued. Good news for the movies, as A Quiet Place Part 2 continues to smash pandemic era records. It made $57 million in its first weekend. Good shit. We want movement like this. I wonder if Cruella's release plan hurts it at all or not. I'm curious how many people do go to the theater for it. I wish I did. I might even go see it again in the theater. We'll see what the numbers are for that. And by the way, for anyone who's not dying to go watch Cruella, although you should, I wasn't dying to see it, and I'm glad that it shocked me. You should go watch it right away, like as soon as you can. But if you want to wait, it actually will be on Disney Plus without paying on August 27th. That's a while from now, but if you feel like if you can wait, that's when it'll be on Disney Plus for everybody without paying extra money. And then just some rumor stuff I like to throw in. But it's not really a rumor. They do have a plan. I've been talking lately about it, with Sony and Marvel, and what their plan is for the Spider-Man characters. And there does seem to be a plan. Like, it's very multiverse based, but there is a plan. And even one of the big producers at Sony has confirmed that they have a very interesting plan going forward for how they bring Spider-Man into the MCU Spider-Man into their Spider-Verse, Sony Spider-Verse, and then vice versa. Things can work both ways with these guys and their deal and their future deals. It would seem they want to keep this relationship very solid going forward, which would be the best thing for both parties. And it's just good to have confirmation from somebody on that. But yeah, that is the news, and it wasn't crazy this week actually, but it's all worth talking about. So now we can get into Cruella, which just fresh off of, just watched it, and because it was a watch with conversation in the mix of it, it should help my analysis of it overall. We'll see. Don't get your hopes up. I'm still very tired, and now I have this tickle in my throat, and I'm sneezing, and had to cut that out, but I fucking sneezed, and I don't know what's going on there. It's not COVID. Relax. Okay? let's get into it. Um, the best thing about this movie was learning more about it. Seriously, if you didn't all right. So my friend Francesca told me like some of the inspiration for the film and its style, its tone, its energy, everything. Like the production design, all the sets, the costume design, everything was in was was infused with a punk rock energy that is inspired by Vivienne Westwood, the queen of punk herself. If you don't know who she is, I didn't. I had to learn about her tonight. But you learning about her beforehand and then watching the movie made it that much better to see all these similarities. All this full blown just rebel punk energy that just gives this film its momentum. It's brilliant. It's really something. Every little detail, all the little things about Cruella, you can see this. You can see the similarities between her and Vivienne Westwood. I thought that was cool. I thought that was cool to know, and if I bring it up to you, you can look her up as if you don't know who she. It's just, I mean, that's really. It was really great to see all those little details, and that what the filmmakers put into this was just brilliant. And then so on top of that, they add all these little layers to this movie that just give it a whole. It first of all gives it such a maturity, right? It's such a different tonal take on a Disney remake or revamp, right? Cruella to me is the boldest of any of their live action outings so far, like at all. Like very much more adult in terms of tone, right? Very edgy and whatnot, but also just the best thing about going off of that is the change in approach to the character and her story. We've never really known anything about Cruella de Vil in terms of her origin. Never had an origin or backstory or whatever. But I mean, so why not take your own approach to it? And these filmmakers did that. They decided to give her a whole new story, a whole new arc for the character, and it was just a brilliant take on the character that we all only ever knew as a villain, as someone not to like, as someone to just have in any story, a Disney story, as that antagonistic presence. So to have this iteration of the character was just so fucking just. So always remember spoiler filled, okay? I'll get into it a little bit. When it comes to how we meet the character, how long we stay with her, and the parallels, and the foreshadowing, the hinting of things, the building to. I mean, they don't miss a beat on how this should play out, poetically, symbolically, everything. And so all the seeds are planted so very perfectly in a lot of ways, and then those seeds grow into something multiple times throughout the film. I think the opening, in going off of that punk energy, the soundtrack was amazing. The soundtrack is perfect for what this movie is, and every every time a new song would come on, Francesca would love it. But it's so true. Every fucking song was so perfectly timed and perfectly right for the moment that we're in the movie. It's one of those kind of soundtracks, movie soundtracks that it's like, damn, I can fucking add this into my library, and it's just so many songs to run through that just added a whole nother layer to the film. Right from the start too, throughout the movie, you don't get a dull moment. The soundtrack is constant, like, from even when she's a kid in the beginning, everything. But I brought up a point, and I thought it was good. I think there's this idea with Cruella as needing to transform into Cruella, into who she really is, something we can all relate to, right? Into becoming who you really are. So the best thing they did here was not take some full-blown villain approach where we're supposed to see her just turn into a straight villain, bad person, right? Bad guy, bad gal, whatever. No, this is an anti-hero whose backstory, all original, and whose motivation allow her to be more of even just a hero without even being an anti-hero. Sirens. She embodies the idea of being the outcast. She's a hero for loners and outcasts and just all around different people, weird people everywhere. She's a hero for the rebel, right? Just kind of going your own, people who go off the beaten path and go in your own direction. I think was that there's even a great line about like normal and being. One of the other characters says it, like, I always thought that normal was the biggest insult of all. To be normal to just be normal would be the biggest insult of all. And it's so true for people who've ever felt different or who've felt just like they didn't fit in anywhere and went their own way and did their own thing. This movie is for those people more than anyone else, right? And I think that Cruella being more of a hero and her arc getting there too was about her accepting who she really is and becoming who she really is. So there's this, they play with a duality of her character. There's Estella and Cruella. And Estella is this regular, normal, like, go to work, goody, like, play your part and try to just be in the rat race, in the system, do your thing, and you'll get where you need to get, kind of thing. Trying to do it a correct way, a proper way, is this idea of Estella. Just a normal girl trying to do it a normal way. But that's never been who she is. And her arc is about discovering that. And they play with this with a line of dialogue too. You can track her arc through a line of dialogue that her character says at multiple times, at multiple points throughout the film. From when she's a kid, like she's at that party in the beginning, she says, "I really did try to fit in at the school." She says that. "I really did try to stay out of trouble. I tried," she says a lot. "I really did try. I tried to do it that way. I tried to do it your way. I really did try." But what that means is that she's been trying to be something she's not all this time. Something we can all relate to. And then she has to say, fuck it. I've never been that person. I'm this person. Estella had to metaphorically, literally, be killed and buried by Cruella. Estella had to die for Cruella to live. It was that kind of transformation. And we get that. We get that multiple times. There are multiple. The idea of death is played with symbolically multiple times to also help the tracking of her character's arc, like her change, the tracking of her change, and how she transforms throughout. So there's like a moment where she's thought to be dead, but not Estella. Cruella is thought to be dead, and in that moment, like I keep using the words metaphorically and symbolically, but like thematically, I guess, Cruella in that there's a moment where she is thought to be dead because she burned alive in her warehouse home, whatever, right? And in that moment, she was like a down and out moment for her character. Like she lost to the villain in that moment and she slipped up and was beaten in that moment. So that was Cruella's like get knocked down, get back up moment anyway. And they use death symbolically there as like this idea of Cruella seeming to be completely beaten, as in she might as well be dead. She lost, but then that's the reaffirmation is everything. The reaffirmation for her character is that she's reborn, through the truth. You know, she learns the truth about who she really is, and there lies her transformation, her true transformation, her true turning point. Huge plot point. There are multiple huge plot points in the film that are just so brilliantly timed, pacing wise, just incredible. And that one where she learns that her actual mother is the antagonist and evil Baroness herself, is this moment of identity for her about who she really is. And it's when the transformation happens. I'm not Estella, I'm Cruella. And Cruella is fucking better than the Baroness. Full-blown acceptance moment, full-blown transformation moment. And also in that moment, we don't see it until we see it, but it becomes about killing Estella and who Estella was, and represents entirely, so that Cruella can live, can really be. And so that's what the climax is, which is awesome. We get a full circle, even said by the character Cruella, poetic moment, where her story really first began, right? The inciting action, where her adoptive mother is killed by the Baroness, by the Dalmatians of all animals, right? Which I'll get into in a second, with Dalmatians and the way they're used in this, which is fucking my favorite thing. The fact that those Dalmatians are then used against the Baroness, it's like a passing of the torch moment too, for in terms of alpha male, not alpha male, but like alpha of the pack kind of thing. The passing over, it's like, you know, the dogs don't listen to her, the Baroness, anymore. They listen to Cruella. It's like I'm alpha now. Like I like that, and the fact that the dogs were the very thing that signified signified authority, and who held the true power. But also the poeticism involved in Estella's death, right? Estella, separate from Cruella, it needed to not only die, but die the same way her very proper and normal adoptive mother did, thus ending an arc for an almost separate character than Cruella. Estella was, you know. So the full circle was not for Cruella as much as it was for Estella. And then the way she beats her, traps her, whatever, awesome. But Cruella DeVille was born in that moment. The use of that too with the Coupe DeVille, just a quick moment that just works. You don't need it. It doesn't need to be a drawn out thing. It was so like, it's spelled like devil, but it's called a DeVille. Did you know that this car is called a Devil? But it's called, and then that's it. Like, she just adopted it, Cruella DeVille. The final song that plays is Sympathy for the Devil, which is completely symbolic of what we came to feel for this character. We've never felt sympathy for the devil character of Cruella DeVille. And this story is about changing our perspective on that character and feeling sympathy and other emotions for her. So Sympathy for the DeVille was the perfect song to end with. And then I love the use of the Dalmatians, because in the original, the Dalmatians represent the antagonistic force to Cruella, this thing that she wants to get for the coat, right? She's crazy. She wants to kill these dogs for their fur and their coat. But in this film, they become more a coat of authority, like I already said, or armor in some cases. She actually utilizes dogs as beneficial tools and allies instead. They become key members of her family and of her arsenal when it comes to her tactics. All the dogs, the Dalmatians being the cherry on top to be the alpha to those dogs at the end. Beautiful. The fact that the Dalmatians are instead actually a key defining quality of what this Cruella is, instead of but in a completely 180 turn, like totally opposite way, was my favorite thing about the use of, because you had to play with the idea of the Dalmatians. It was always that was the movie, it was 100 and whatever Dalmatians, 101 Dalmatians, you had to have the Dalmatians involved, and if you're taking a new approach to Cruella, you have to take a new approach to how you utilize all those original elements to that, and then use them in a new way that makes this new story about the character work more effectively, and it did. I loved that. And there's a little post mid credit scene too that even expands on that. The Dalmatians are not something she hunts, but gives away. It's a complete turn on the character. I love it. I love their approach to her now. I love this whole new take on Cruella DeVille. She's not a villain anymore. That you have to be fresh and new like this. You have to. This Cruella DeVille is a hero, anti-hero if you must call her that. But that's even better. It's better to take that full approach than to just try and just arc her from someone you kind of like, someone you can follow and like, but then she takes a full turn to evil, and now she's still the bad one. Like, she's bad. And they try to play with, hinting at that possibility a lot in this. You don't know if you're going to get that. It seems that they're not going to take that approach. When we see that the tracking of her arc is more about her actually being better than the evil Baroness, actually being the bigger, higher person, they're not going to take a villain approach with her. But then the twist made me think, oh, well, now everything's changed. Her perspective, her motivation for revenge, everything has changed. Her anger is redirected. Now is the moment where it could turn full villain, full bad. That still doesn't happen. She still overcomes that obstacle like a hero would, and becomes even more a hero and a better character than the character we knew. But better character, better person than the Baroness was the point I was making. As she says she's going to do. And, yeah, everything from the production design, the costumes, but most importantly, the roles and the actors playing them. Even the supporting cast, her posse, her goons, her followers, her friends, whatever you want, her family, the two stooges that she grew up with. Blanking on the actors' names, but we've seen them, and the fact that they've been able to get these roles and really take them to the extreme was brilliant. They did great, but Emma Thompson was was a convincing enough Cruella type villain herself, like the old Cruella type villain. Like she felt like that, and she did fantastic at making us just hate her so much and wanting Cruella to beat her so bad. Brilliant. And of course, nobody was better. Nobody was better than Emma Stone. She was so fucking good in this movie. She's so fucking good. So good that I'm psyched to see what could happen next. But just her performance. I mean, we got into a whole Oscar thing here too. I'm not going to get into it here, but this idea of like how a movie like this really should be 100% in the consideration for everything at something like that at the Oscars. It should. And Emma Stone, her performance should be recognized. She was fantastic. And then I just want to say a couple other things, man, but shit. Yeah, and they play with that idea of the necklace being a family heirloom, and then that takes on a whole new meaning. The way that the seeds are planted, you know, the way the dogs you very, very, very briefly see like a turning point for the dog's loyalty, the Dalmatians' loyalty. There's a hint of it, tiniest hint of it. And Francesca picked it up, like, oh, she trained them. Now the dogs listen to her, and it sets up that whole ending, where it just, she blows it's so beautiful. The foreshadowing, well done. Loved that mid-credit scene, like I said. She's handing out and giving away Dalmatian puppies. Literally, like, she's the Dalmatian woman now, like, but in a good way. Like, it just, the whole twist, the whole turn, complete opposite iteration, approach to the character. Loved it. And I think, yeah. I think that's all I have to say about that. I really do. I mean, I could keep going. Of course I could. I'm not remembering everything that was coming to mind in the moment. But what else do you need to know other than the fact that I'm this hyped about a Cruella movie? You should watch it. I will get... It's the first in the 9s rating that I've had in a while. I keep running through this movie in my head. I can't even land on a number. So I'm just gonna... I'm going to land on one right now and stick with it. I give it a 9.5 out of 10. Because it is the best Disney live-action film that I've seen. It is. 9.5 out of 10. It's great. It's really great. It's really great. I almost just want to say 9.6 and call it amazing, but... yeah, it was really fucking great, dude. And for people who do have my account on Disney Plus, hey, you can go watch it right now at home. I believe you're good to go. For I don't know how many days, but... yeah. I hope that was a satisfying enough take on this film, because I don't know if I can express just how much fun it was to watch and everything I was feeling watching it. I don't know that I got all of that across, but I hope I did. Let's move on to our next segment, which is, of course, a behind the scenes on something I stuck with Emma Stone this week. So something that she's done. And why not the film that she won Best Actress for? I believe. Yeah. I'm doing it. So here are some fun facts about La La Land. Had some amazing choreography, music, and shots that will melt your heart. But that iconic Hollywood Hills dance sequence was perhaps the most stunning of all. Did you know it only took a total of 1 hour for director Damien Chazelle to shoot? Over a span of 2 days, Chazelle wanted to make the sequence pop by shooting it during magic hour, that time that we in LA know as the best time to check out the sunset. The crew had 30 minutes to work with, so over the course of 2 shoot days, 1 hour total, the sequence was shot, and because Ryan Gosling and Emma Stone practiced the choreography so much, the only problem they ran into was merely waiting for the lighting to be right. And similarly to how Whiplash is so centered around music, this film, Chazelle's passion project too, also had these themes of and ideas of music, musicals, and dance. Ryan Gosling, similarly to Miles Teller in Whiplash, got heavily dedicated to his role as a musician. Gosling actually learned how to play jazz piano for the role. He learned it in 3 months, practicing 2 hours a day, 6 days a week. Even close-up shots most of the time were Gosling himself playing. Truly awesome. And it certainly was good. It didn't actually win Best Picture during that 2017 debacle, but there is no denying it was one of the best films that came out that year. Let's do a poll question versus what do we want to do? I figure let's do another versus. And since we had such an amazing performance by an actress this week, we really did, let's do an actress versus. 2 of the best actresses around these days. How about Meryl Streep versus Cate Blanchett? Is that an interesting one? Who you got? You see, because most people can just easily pick Meryl Streep, but I'm not one of those people. I'm not going to just easily pick Meryl Streep. I'm actually going to... I love Cate Blanchett and her roles. I don't know. That's a tough one. But who you got? Our recommendations this week are in the realm of powerful performances. I talked about this film early on in the existence of this show. It was episode 4 or whatever. But if you still haven't seen The Invisible Man yet with Elizabeth Moss, you definitely need to. Like, for real. And then go watch episode 4 of Screen Preach where I talk about it. I wasn't sure what show I wanted to pick. Like, I was watching Watchmen, which is really good. But and Regina King she's so great. And then it made me think of the left. She didn't have a big role in it, but it made me think of the show. And it's a great show that people don't even really know, but it slipped under the radar. It was 3 seasons done, like, quick, but it's actually a really great show on HBO, and you should check it out. It's The Leftovers, and it's just one of those shows you can get hooked into, and it's quick enough to binge, and it's good. I got another comic. Or graphic novel, whatever you call it, for you guys to check out. I didn't have a book for you this week, but The Sandman. I've been reading, and that's something you should all check out. 10-volume set, and I would check it out before the TV show version on Netflix comes out. There's a TV show version or adaptation by the same writer who did the comics coming out. So if you haven't yet, you should definitely try to check that out before. Read them before the show. And I finally got back into Assassin's Creed Valhalla. It took me forever to get a steady flow of playing it, and now that I've gotten into it again, I'm into it again. So I'm playing that on the weekends, and if you haven't, it's worth definitely playing. Especially if you've ever been a fan of any of them. I got stuck again on Ninja Gaiden. Of course, Gaiden. I think I say that wrong. Gaiden, Ninja Gaiden. That's how I play that game now. Apparently, I get through the mission, the chapter that you're on, and then get stuck at the last boss every time, until I one day randomly beat it, and then same thing, get all the way through, and then stuck for a while. I guess that's always how it's going to be, but I'm not playing that steadily anymore. I'm going to do Assassin's Creed. And how about another edition of the draft? So, my latest and newest segment. Last week I talked about how I do some of my research. I'm keeping it about research this week. I thought I'd mention like a little bit more about how I go about it, my approach, some of the steps that I take. Everybody has their own process. I have this thing about handwriting, like a lot of things in my workbook. I really want to have things really worked out beforehand before going to the laptop at all. But I do also use a beat board in Final Draft, and I'll throw pictures in there that inspire ideas in my head about the story, and I'll go through and look at them, and maybe they'll help too. I do use the beat board in that regard. They sometimes help strike a chord. But I'm big on the margins in my workbook. I love the margins in my workbook, as you can see, and that is a big thing for me. I'm always it's like little things will always pop in that maybe don't even need to fill full sentences on the actual page, so it's in the margin. My margins get filled, dude. And a lot of the time, the margins are always like structural things, or like in some cases, my films are broken into chapters, literally with titles, and I'll like that's the various transformations of the title chapters. I mean, the chapter titles are always in the margins. You can see the change from, this was the title for this chapter one day, and now it's this. And you go to the margins on a much later page. Margins are always for little things, but they get filled very quickly. They could be structural or it's character-based a lot of the times. Little things. Big on that. And then there's also there's this thing. There's a point where I underline the most important notes that were taken during research. The most important notes. And that's still, I mean, it's not that I don't read all of them, and they all could be helpful. I mean, they're not all helpful, but there could be something I didn't underline that was helpful. But I always try to underline the most important things. And then the types of research are important, aside from books. And this is how I do the book research. Like, I literally post-it note on pages in the book that I'm using for research, like literally. But in first-person research, interviews with people, that's the best kind of research. Not always easy to find, but you do the best you can. I do the best that I can. But yeah, I mean, what else is there for research? You really want to narrow it down to, you want to get as much information as you can, but you also don't want to, it's about fooling the audience in that regard. You're not an expert on these things, but you can make it appear like you know what you're talking about, right? I don't know. What about you? Like, comment, like, what's your process with research for any writers out there? Yeah. Anything caught my attention this week? I don't know. I didn't know. That whole thing with Fauci. That caught everyone's attention, didn't it? As always, I gotta shout out to my patrons, because they help. Oh, I did not forget about you either. There is a merch drop, and it's coming next week, or the week after the latest. Get ready for the new merch. It should be cool. Some new stuff. So for the patrons, for the patrons first, if you want to pay for one, like, there's always ways to get the merch drop coming. My patrons, of course: Billy Thomas, Jessica Murphy, Michael Morganti, Tijan Construction, Doolin Morganti, Linda Morganti, And Mom, by the way, I'm not putting you last on the list because I like on purpose. Like I'm going in the order that I got the patrons. Like, and you were the most recent. That's all that is. Um. Anyway, check out. Go to follow me at DeBenji, my personal page. Um, I have the most fun on my on at Screen Preach. We have fun on there. Get involved more in the show. That's where I really have a lot of engagement with people too. So you definitely want to follow at Screen Preach. You want to subscribe to BMS Studios on YouTube, where you will find these weekly episodes every Monday, as well as other content I drop. And for my work, my written work, you can go to benmorgantistory.com, of course. But yeah, for the merch drop, for other benefits, you gotta become a patron at patreon.com/preacher. But as usual, thank you for listening and watching. This was a really fun episode for me because I was really into the film. So come back next week. We actually don't know yet what we're gonna do 58, but I can assure you it will be something. Big thing that I want to end with, obviously. Don't forget, recaps on Screen Preach are returning because Loki officially begins this Wednesday, June 9th. We're back. The Marvel Cinematic Universe narrative continues. So we will be recapping next week, episode 1, and every week going forward until the season ends. Get ready for Loki Wednesday, June 9th. I'll also post about it for people. And, yeah. Have a cinematic week.